The moment you react, you have already lost. You think you are defending yourself. You think that by snapping back, by raising your voice, or by typing that furious reply, you are asserting dominance. But you are wrong. In reality, you are handing the remote control of your mind to someone else. You are letting an external event dictate your internal state. You are not the master. You are the puppet, and the world is pulling your strings. If you are listening to this, it is because you are tired. You are tired of the regret that settles in 10 minutes after the argument ends. You are exhausted by the emotional hangover that comes from letting a traffic jam, a rude comment, or a dismissive email ruin your entire day. You have felt the drain on your energy, the erosion of your focus, and the subtle loss of respect from those around you. You have felt the fire of anger rise up, and instead of using it, you let it consume you. We live in a culture that worships speed. We are told to clap back. We are conditioned to have an opinion instantly, to respond immediately, to let our emotions bleed out onto the pavement for everyone to see. We call this authenticity, but the ancients, the Stoics, the samurai, the great strategists of history, they knew better. They knew that immediate reaction is the hallmark of an untrained mind. They understood that the strongest person in the room is rarely the loudest. The strongest person is the one who can watch the storm rage and remain completely dry. This audiobook is not about becoming passive. It is not about letting people walk all over you, and it is certainly not about suppression. Suppression is weak. It is fear disguised as politeness. What we are discussing here is something far more dangerous to your enemies and far more empowering for yourself. We are talking about strategic patience. We are talking about the ancient rule of not reacting first. Over the next 10 chapters, we are going to dismantle the wiring in your brain that screams for immediate gratification. We are going to explore the biology of the outburst and why your primitive instincts are failing you in the modern world. We will move from the diagnosis of the problem into the architecture of the solution. You will learn to cultivate the gap, that sacred split second between the trigger and your response where all your freedom lives. You will learn how to use silence as a weapon. You will learn how to transmute the heat of anger into the cold, hard steel of resolve. By the end of this journey, you will no longer be a leaf blowing in the wind of other people's moods. You will be the rock that breaks the wave. This requires work. It requires you to kill the part of your ego that needs to be right immediately so that the rest of you can be effective permanently. It is a path of discipline, and it is not for everyone. Most people will go to their graves reacting to every little slight, forever slaves to their environment. But you are here because you want to be the sovereign. Before we unlock the gates to this fortress, take a second to solidify your commitment. If you are finding value in this message and you are ready to reclaim your mind, please like this video and subscribe to the premier audiobooks. It is a small action, but it signals your intent to join the ranks of the self-governed. Now, take a deep breath. Clear your mind. The training begins now. Chapter 1. The Puppet Master. Imagine, for a moment, that you are not a man or a woman of free will, but a marionette. Picture yourself standing on a stage. It is dark. The audience is invisible. Attached to your wrists, your ankles, your jaw, and your spine are thin, translucent strings. These strings stretch upward into the darkness, disappearing into the hands of a shadowy figure you cannot see. This figure is the puppet master. When the master twitches a finger, your hand jerks up. When the master pulls a cord, your jaw drops open and words spill out. When the master yanks violently, you stumble, fall, or lash out in a rage. Now look closer at the strings. They are not made of twine or wire. They are made of your own emotions. And the puppet master? The puppet master is anyone and everyone who has the power to make you react. The colleague who makes a snide remark during a meeting and causes your face to flush with embarrassment? He is holding the string attached to your insecurity. The driver who cuts you off in traffic, forcing you to slam on your horn and scream in a solitary metal box? He is holding the string attached to your anger. The anonymous commenter on the internet who critiques your work and ruins your evening? They are holding the string attached to your ego. The first step to true power is admitting that right now you are likely a slave to your environment. Most people live their entire lives in this state of servitude. They wake up and immediately check their phone, allowing the news or social media to set their emotional thermostat for the day. They go to work and allow their boss's mood to dictate their happiness. They go home and allow their partner's stress to become their stress. They are leaves blowing in the wind, convinced that their erratic movement is flying, when in reality, they are simply falling. We have been conditioned to view reactivity as a form of strength. We see the hero in the movie punch the villain immediately after an insult. We see the politician shout over the opponent. We see the clapback culture online where the fastest, wittiest, rudest response is celebrated as a victory. We confuse volatility with power. But look at the mechanics of it. If I can walk into a room, say 3 specific words to you, and watch you lose your composure, who is the powerful one? Is it you, the one flailing and shouting? Or is it me, the one who knew exactly which button to press to make you dance? To react is to surrender your agency. It is a confession that the external world is stronger than your internal fortress. When you react immediately, you are telling the world, I have no filter. I have no guard. Whatever you throw at me will go straight to my core. The biology of the puppet. Why do we do this? Why is it so hard to just not react? We must understand that the strings are tied to our biology. Human beings evolved in an environment of immediate physical danger. If a predator jumped out of the bushes, you didn't have time to contemplate the philosophical implications of the attack. You didn't have a gap to consider your options. You had to react. Fight, flight, or freeze. Your amygdala, the ancient almond-shaped alarm bell in your brain, would hijack your entire system, flooding you with cortisol and adrenaline. Your vision would tunnel, your logic would shut down, and your body would move. This mechanism kept your ancestors alive. But today, you are not facing saber-toothed tigers. You are facing passive-aggressive emails. You are facing unexpected bills. You are facing teenagers with attitude problems. The problem is that your brain doesn't know the difference. To your amygdala, a threat to your ego feels like a threat to your life. When someone disrespects you in front of a group, your body prepares for physical combat. Your heart rate spikes, your muscles tense. You feel that hot, prickling sensation of the back of your neck. The puppet master has yanked the string, and your biology is obeying the command. But here is the tragedy. While this reaction was useful for surviving the jungle, it is disastrous for navigating the boardroom, the relationship, or the modern world. In the modern world, the one who reacts first loses. When you operate on instinct, you are predictable. And if you are predictable, you are controllable. The illusion of venting. One of the greatest lies we are told is that we need to let it out. We are told that holding back a reaction is unhealthy, that we must vent our anger or frustration immediately, or it will poison us. This is false. There is a massive difference between processing an emotion and reacting to it. Reaction is often just a transfer of pain. When you feel hurt, you want to hurt back. When you feel chaos, you want to create chaos. It is a game of hot potato. You are trying to throw the burning coal of your emotion onto someone else, but in doing so, you only burn your own hands. Think about the last time you truly lost your temper. Maybe you screamed at a loved one. Maybe you sent a text message in the heat of the moment that you couldn't unsend. Did that reaction solve the problem? Did it make you feel more in control? Or did it create a second, larger problem that you then had to clean up? Reactivity creates a debt. Every time you snap, Every time you lose your cool, you incur a debt of regret, a debt of trust, or a debt of reputation. You spend days apologizing for moments that lasted seconds. You spend years rebuilding bridges that you burned in a single afternoon. The puppet master loves this. The master loves it when you are messy because a messy person is weak. A person consumed by the cleanup of their own reactions has no energy left for strategy, for growth, or for conquest. Identifying your masters. If you want to cut the strings, you must first identify who holds them. This requires a brutal inventory of your life. Who has the power to ruin your day? Is it your parents? Do they have a specific tone of voice that instantly reduces you to a rebellious or sullen child, no matter how old you are? Is it your ex-partner? Does the mere mention of their name send you into a spiral of bitterness? Is it the news cycle?
Do you find yourself enraged by headlines about people you will never meet, in places you will never go? Is it your own expectations? Do you fly into a rage when reality doesn't match the script in your head, when the flight is delayed, when the coffee is cold, when the weather turns? These are your masters. Every time you give them a reaction, you are feeding them. You are validating their power over you. A troll on the internet starves if you do not reply. A bully loses interest if you do not flinch. A chaotic situation loses its terror if you remain calm. But when you engage, when you fight back on their terms, you are stepping into their arena. As the old saying goes, never wrestle with a pig. You both get dirty, and the pig likes it. When you react, you are wrestling the pig. You are lowering your frequency to match the frequency of the agitator. You cannot lift someone up by jumping into the mud with them. You can only be pulled down. The first cut. So how do we begin to sever these strings? We start by watching them. The next time you feel that surge of heat, that irresistible urge to speak, to type, to correct, to defend, stop. Just stop. Freeze your body. Clench your teeth if you have to. Do not let the energy escape your mouth or your fingertips. Visualize the string. Visualize the other person, the agitator, standing there, waiting for the jerk of the marionette. They are waiting for you to dance. They have put the coin in the machine, and they are waiting for the show. Deny them the performance. It will be uncomfortable. It will feel like holding your breath underwater. Your ego will scream at you. It will tell you that you are being weak, that you are letting them win, that justice must be served. Ignore the ego. The ego is the hook the string is tied to. In that moment of non-reaction, you are doing something revolutionary. You are breaking the chain of cause and effect. You are introducing a glitch in the matrix of your own programming. For the first time, the puppet master pulls the string and the arm does not move. The master pulls harder and still, you are still. Imagine the confusion on the other side. Imagine the power shift. When you do not react, you force the other person to sit with their own behavior. You force the chaos to bounce off your shield and return to its source. The sovereign path, this is not about becoming a doormat. We will talk about taking action, effective, decisive, crushing action in later chapters. But you cannot take right action until you have stopped the wrong reaction. You cannot aim the weapon if you are shaking with rage. The ancient rule is not a rule of passivity. It is a rule of preparation. It is the understanding that the most dangerous predator is the one that is silent before it strikes. You are embarking on a journey to reclaim your nervous system. It is a journey from being a puppet to being a person. It is the transition from a life of accidents to a life of intention. Today, your homework is simple but difficult.
Watch yourself. Catch yourself in the moments where you are about to dance. See the string, see the master, and then cut the cord. Stand still, because the only way to win the game is to stop playing by their rules.
Chapter 2. Anatomy of an Outburst. We have all been there. It happens in a flash. One moment, you are a rational, functioning adult. You are capable of logic, empathy, and complex thought. Then, a trigger is pulled. Maybe it is a disrespectful tone of voice. Maybe it is a piece of equipment that refuses to work. Maybe it is a betrayal of trust. Suddenly, the world changes. Your vision actually narrows, a phenomenon known as tunnel vision. The peripheral details of the room fade away, and all you can see is the object of your rage. Your hearing dampens. Your heart hammers against your ribs like a trapped bird. Your hands curl into fists, not because you decided to make them, but because your tendons tightened on their own. A red mist descends. In this state, you are no longer you. The sophisticated, civilized version of your personality has been shoved into a locker, and something else has taken the wheel. You say things you would never say. You make threats you cannot back up. You burn relationships you spent years building. And then, just as quickly as it came, the mist clears. The adrenaline fades. You are left standing in the wreckage, looking around, wondering, what just happened? Why did I do that? To master the ancient rule of not reacting, we must stop treating these outbursts as mysterious character flaws. They are not mysteries. They are mechanics. You are operating on a biological script that was written 200,000 years ago. The hijack. Inside your brain, there is a constant power struggle between two distinct regions. First, you have the prefrontal cortex. This is the CEO of your brain. It lives right behind your forehead. It is responsible for logic, long-term planning, impulse control, and personality. It is the part of you that decides to save money for retirement. The part that writes polite emails, the part that loves your children. It is slow, thoughtful, and energy expensive. Deep inside the center of the brain, however, lies the amygdala. These are two almond-shaped clusters of nuclei. The amygdala is not a CEO, it is a bouncer. It is a frantic, paranoid security guard. Its only job is to scan the environment for threats and keep you alive. It is fast, lightning fast. It can process a threat and initiate a physical response before your prefrontal cortex even knows what is happening. When a threat is detected, the amygdala hits the panic button. It initiates what psychologists call an amygdala hijack. It effectively cuts the power lines to your prefrontal cortex. It says, we don't have time for logic. We don't have time for a retirement plan. We are under attack. It floods your system with cortisol, the stress hormone, and adrenaline. It reroutes blood flow away from your digestive system and your logic centers, sending it straight to your major muscle groups. This is why, in the middle of a heated argument, you literally cannot think straight. You cannot access your vocabulary. You stutter or you repeat the same curse words. It is not because you are stupid, it is because the thinking part of your brain has been taken offline. You have been lobotomized by your own survival mechanism. The time traveler's dilemma. This system is brilliant if you are a caveman. If you are walking through the tall grass and you hear the snap of a twig, you do not want to ponder the source of the noise. You do not want to debate the probability of it being a lion versus a gazelle. You want to run, or you want to fight. The amygdala hijacked is a masterpiece of evolutionary engineering designed to save you from physical predators. But here is the cruel joke of modern existence. Your brain cannot distinguish between a physical threat and a social threat. To the amygdala, a boss criticizing your spreadsheet looks exactly like a saber-toothed tiger baring its teeth. A spouse rolling their eyes looks exactly like a rival tribesman raising a spear. The biological response is identical. You are walking around the 21st century with a brain wired for the Stone Age. You are navigating complex social hierarchies, delicate corporate politics, and intricate emotional relationships using a piece of software designed to bash heads with rocks.
This is why the reaction is always disproportionate. You are bringing a nuclear weapon to a knife fight. You are flooding your body with combat chemicals to deal with a rude barista. The cost is astronomical. The IQ tax. Let's talk about the cost of this dumb mode. Research suggests that during an amygdala hijack, your functional IQ drops significantly. You effectively become less intelligent. Your ability to process complex information, to see nuance, and to empathize vanishes. You become binary. Everything is black or white, friend or foe, good or evil. This is why you can never win an argument when you are reactive. You literally lack the mental capacity to form a winning strategy. You are flailing. Think about the most regretful decisions of your life. Were they made after a long period of calm reflection, or were they made in a split second of high emotion? When you react first, you are betting your career, your marriage, or your reputation on the instincts of a paranoid security guard who thinks everything is a death threat.
You are letting the least intelligent part of your brain drive the car. And the world knows this. Manipulators know this. They know that if they can get you to react, they can make you stupid. If they can make you angry, they can make you blind. As the ancient proverb goes, whom the gods wish to destroy, they first make mad. The chemical hangover. The damage isn't just in the moment. There is a tax to be paid afterward. An outburst is biologically expensive. Flooding the body with stress hormones is like redlining an engine. It causes wear and tear. After the rage subsides, what happens? You crash. You feel exhausted, hollow, and maybe even depressed. This is the chemical hangover. Your body has burned through its energy reserves, preparing for a fight that never happened. This exhaustion makes you vulnerable. In the hours following an outburst, you are weaker. Your immune system is suppressed. Your focus is shattered. You are more likely to make mistakes in your work. You are more likely to succumb to cravings for junk food or cheap dopamine. By reacting, you have not only lost the battle in the moment, you have sabotaged your effectiveness for the rest of the day. You have poisoned your own well. The addiction to indignation. If reacting is so costly, and if it makes us so miserable, why do we do it? Why is it so hard to stop? Because, in a twisted way, it feels good. Anger provides a surge of energy. It provides a temporary feeling of power and certainty. When you are righteously indignant, you feel superior. You feel justified. There is a dopamine hit that comes with the explosion. We become addicted to the drama. We become addicted to the rush of being the victim or the avenger. We subconsciously look for things to be offended by because we crave that spike of adrenaline. We scroll through social media looking for the fight. We interpret neutral comments as insults so we can access that fuel. This is the most dangerous trap of all. The belief that your anger is a virtue. You tell yourself, I'm just passionate. You say, I just don't suffer fools. You frame your lack of impulse control as a personality trait. But it is not a trait. It is an addiction. And like any addiction, it is slowly destroying your life. Slowing down the film. So how do we intervene? How do we stop a biological process that moves faster than thought? We have to learn to recognize the pre-tremors. An earthquake rarely hits without warning signs. There are subtle shifts in the ground first. The same is true for an outburst. You do not go from 0 to 100 instantly, even if it feels like it. There is a buildup. It starts in the body. For some, it is a tightening of the stomach. For others, it is a clenching of the jaw. Maybe your breathing becomes shallow. Maybe your toes curl. Maybe you feel a sudden rise in body temperature. These are your warning lights. This is your dashboard telling you that the engine is overheating.
Most people ignore these signals. They keep pushing. They stay in the conversation. They keep reading the email. They keep engaging with the person who is triggering them. And then, boom, the hijack completes. The ancient rule demands that you become an expert student of your own physiology. You must catch the reaction before it reaches the brain.
You must catch it in the body. The moment you feel that heat, the moment you feel the jaw tighten, you must acknowledge, I am under attack. My biology is trying to hijack me. This acknowledgement is the key. By observing the physical sensation, you re-engage the prefrontal cortex. You force the thinking brain to look at the feeling brain. This simple act of observation disrupts the automatic circuit, the 6-second gap. Neuroscientists suggest that the chemical surge of an emotion only lasts about 90 seconds in the bloodstream. However, the initial spike, the one that makes you punch the wall, peaks within the first 6 seconds. If you can survive the first 6 seconds without acting, you have won. This is why the old advice of counting to 10 is actually scientifically sound. You are not just counting, you are buying time for the prefrontal cortex to reboot. You are waiting for the bouncer to step aside so the CEO can get back to the desk. In the coming chapters, we will learn exactly how to use those 6 seconds. We will build the fortress of silence. But for now, you must understand the anatomy of the enemy. The enemy is not the person shouting at you. The enemy is the ancient software in your own head that thinks you need to shout back to survive. You are not a caveman. You are a sovereign individual. And a sovereign does not let a biological reflex dictate their destiny. Chapter 3. The Currency of Respect. Walk into a room where a disaster is unfolding. Maybe it is a stock market crash, a restaurant kitchen during the dinner rush, or a boardroom after a major deal has fallen through. Look around. The room is filled with noise. People are shouting.
Phones are ringing. There is a palpable frantic energy as individuals scramble to fix the blame or fix the problem. But in the center of the storm, there is usually one person who is not moving. They are not shouting. They are not running. They are standing still, watching, listening. Who do you look at? Who do you wait for? Who is in charge? It is not the loudest person. The loudest person is just background noise. You look to the quiet one. You look to the one who is not yet reacted. Instinctively, biologically, and socially, we know that the person with the lowest heart rate holds the highest status. Respect is a currency. It is earned, spent, and lost in every interaction you have. And the fastest way to bankrupt yourself, to burn your entire fortune of reputation in a single moment, is to react uncontrollably. The economics of attention. To understand why reactivity destroys respect, we must look at the basic laws of economics, supply and demand. Value is driven by scarcity. Gold is valuable because it is rare. Dirt is worthless because it is everywhere. Your words and your emotions are your currency. If you give them away to everyone, if you spend them on every little annoyance, every rude comment, and every minor inconvenience, you flood the market. You create inflation. When you are constantly reacting, your anger becomes cheap. Your frustration becomes common. People stop listening to you because they know that everything upsets you. If you scream at the traffic, scream at the news, and scream at your employees, your scream loses its power. It becomes white noise. But consider the person who rarely speaks. Consider the person who almost never gets angry. When that person finally stands up and says, "This is unacceptable," the room freezes. Why? Because their reaction is a rare commodity. It has value. It carries weight. By abiding by the ancient rule of not reacting, you are artificially restricting the supply of your attention. You are making yourself scarce. You are telling the world, my peace is too expensive to be bought by your cheap provocation. The status paradox. Sociologists and anthropologists have studied human hierarchies for decades, and they have found a consistent truth. Reactivity is a signal of submission. In the animal kingdom, the alpha does not flinch. The lion does not bark at the jackal. The lion ignores the jackal because the jackal is not a threat. To react is to acknowledge a threat. When you react to an insult, you are implicitly saying, your opinion of me matters. Your words have the power to hurt me. We are on the same level. This is the status paradox. You think that by fighting back, you are asserting your dominance, but by fighting back, you're actually lowering your status to match your attacker. If a billionaire is walking down the street and a beggar screams an insult at him, does the billionaire stop, turn around, and scream back? Does he explain his net worth? Does he try to win the argument? No, he keeps walking. He doesn't even hear it. The gap in status is so vast that the reaction is unnecessary. Now apply this to your life. When a colleague undermines you or a family member tries to bait you and you explode, you are confirming that their opinion is vital to your survival. You are validating their importance. True authority does not need to defend itself against every slight.
True authority is self-evident. It is heavy. It is grounded. It is the mountain that does not move for the wind, the vulnerability of noise. Silence is armor. Noise is vulnerability. When you are reacting, you are leaking information. You are showing your hand. Think about a negotiation. The other party makes an offensive low-ball offer. If you react immediately, if you gasp, scoff, or start arguing, you have just told them exactly where your pain point is. You have told them what you fear and what you value. You have given them a map of your psyche. But if you sit there in silence, looking at them with a neutral expression, you tell them nothing. They don't know if you are angry, amused, or bored. They don't know if you are about to walk away or counteroffer. This silence makes people nervous. We are social creatures. We crave feedback. When we don't get a reaction, we start to project our own insecurities into the void. The other party will often start bidding against themselves just to break the silence. They will say, well, obviously we can do better than that, without you saying a word. The reactive person is an open book. Anyone can read them, and anyone can write on their pages. The non-reactive person is a closed vault. The combination is known only to the sovereign, the cost of explaining. A close cousin of the angry outburst is the over-explanation. This is a subtle form of reactivity that destroys respect just as effectively as screaming. It happens when you feel misunderstood or judged, and you launch into a desperate monologue to justify your actions. I didn't mean it like that. See, what happened was, I'm actually a really good person. I just had a bad day.
Stop. Every time you rush to explain yourself to someone who is committed to misunderstanding you, you are seeking validation. You are begging for respect. And you can never beg for respect. You can only command it. The ancient rule dictates that you do not react to false narratives with desperate defenses. You state the truth once, clearly and calmly, and then you detach. You let the other person be wrong about you. This is a terrifying level of confidence for most people. We are terrified of being seen in a bad light. But the person who can tolerate being misunderstood is the person who holds the power. If you need everyone to agree with you, you are a slave to everyone. If you are content with your own internal scorecard, you are free. Professional suicide. In the professional world, the cost of reactivity is literal. It costs you money. It costs you promotions. Corporate environments are pressure cookers. They are designed to test your resilience. The higher you climb the ladder, the more pressure you will face. Upper management is rarely looking for the smartest person in the room. They can hire smart people. They are looking for the steadiest hand. They are looking for the person who can handle a crisis without infecting the rest of the team with panic. If you are known as the person who blows up or the person who gets stressed out easily, you put a glass ceiling on your own career. You might be brilliant. You might be talented. But you are a liability. You are a loose cannon. I have seen incredibly talented individuals passed over for leadership roles simply because they lacked emotional containment.
The board looks at them and thinks, if he can't handle a difficult client, how can he handle a merger? If she crumbles under a deadline, how can she lead a division? Gravitas, that elusive quality of executive presence, is nothing more than the absence of reactivity. It is the ability to absorb chaos and radiate calm. The vampire test. There are people in your life who feed on your reactions. We can call them energy vampires. They are the drama magnets, the perpetual victims, the instigators. They provoke you because they need your energy to sustain their own chaotic narratives. When you get angry, you are feeding them. You are giving them a story to tell. Look how crazy he acted. Look how mean she is. When you stop reacting, you starve the vampire. It is amazing to watch what happens to these relationships when you apply the ancient rule. When you stop providing the emotional fuel, they eventually stop coming back. They go looking for an easier target, someone who will scream and cry and play the game. By protecting your peace, you essentially clean your social circle. The parasites fall away because there is nothing left for them to eat. You are left with people who respect you, not people who use you. Reclaiming your value. So, how do we rebuild our currency? How do we regain the respect we may have lost through years of reactive behavior? We do it by becoming unpredictable. If you have a reputation for being hot-headed, the most shocking and powerful thing you can do is nothing. The next time the pressure hits, the next time the insult lands, do the opposite of what everyone expects. If they expect you to yell, whisper. If they expect you to defend, agree.
If they expect you to move, stand still. Break the pattern. When you break the pattern of your own behavior, you force people to reevaluate you. You force them to look at you with fresh eyes. They think, something has changed. He isn't playing the game anymore. That curiosity is the seed of respect. You are no longer a mechanism that can be triggered. You are a mystery. The heavy silence. Mastering the art of the heavy silence is your greatest tool here. When someone disrespects you, try this. Look them in the eye. Hold the gaze for 3 full seconds. Do not smile. Do not frown. Just look. Then, go back to what you were doing. That 3-second silence is louder than any scream. In that silence, you are communicating, I heard you, I processed it, and I decided it was not worth my time. That is power. That is the behavior of a sovereign. You were not doing this to be arrogant. You were doing this to preserve your value. You were treating your energy like the limited, precious resource that it is. You are refusing to spend your gold on dust. Respect is not something you demand. It is something you accumulate by refusing to give yourself away. Chapter 4. The Sacred Gap. There is a space. It is microscopic. It is fleeting. It passes so quickly that 99% of the human population misses it entirely. They live their entire lives without ever stepping foot inside it. This space exists between the moment the stimulus hits you and the moment your response leaves you, between the insult and the anger, between the setback and the despair, between the urge and the action. This is the gap. And inside this tiny, imperceptible sliver of time lies the entirety of your freedom. Viktor Frankl, a neurologist and psychiatrist who survived the Nazi concentration camps, discovered this space in the depths of hell. Stripped of his clothes, his dignity, his family, and his name, he realized that the guards could take everything from him except one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. He realized that between the stimulus, the cruelty of the guards, and the response, his internal state, there was a gap, and in that gap lay his power. If a man starving in a freezing camp can find this gap, you can find it in traffic. You can find it in a boardroom. You can find it in your living room. Most people believe that stimulus and response are glued together. Stimulus, someone yells. Response, I yell back. Stimulus, I feel stressed. Response, I eat junk food. Stimulus, I feel fear. Response, I quit. They see these events as a single unbroken chain, cause and effect, but they are wrong. They are two separate events, and you are the gatekeeper standing between them. The physics of the pause. To master the ancient rule, you must become obsessed with this split second. You must become a chrononaut, a traveler of time, learning to stretch that millisecond into a minute, an hour, or a day. When you live without the gap, you are a machine. You are an input-output device. You are predictable, programmable, and easily broken. When you live within the gap, you are a creator. You receive an input, you hold it, you inspect it, you decide if it is useful, and then, and only then, do you release an output.
Think of it like receiving a package at your front door. The reactive person opens the door, grabs the package, tears it open, and lets whatever is inside explode into their house. If it's a bomb, they get blown up. If it's garbage, their house gets dirty. The person who knows the gap sees the package. They look at the return address. They check for ticking sounds. They decide, you know what? I don't think I want to bring this inside. And they leave it on the porch. The gap is that moment of inspection. It is the checkpoint at the border of your soul, finding the entry point. The challenge, of course, is that the gap is slippery. When the adrenaline hits, the doors to the gap slam shut. So how do we pry them open? We use the body to hack the mind. The moment you feel the pre-tremors we discussed in Chapter 2, the heat, the tension, the tunnel vision, you must deploy a physical brake. The most accessible brake you have is the breath. This sounds like a cliché, but it is a biological switch. When you are in a reactive state, your breathing becomes shallow and rapid. This tells your brain, emergency, speed up. To open the gap, you must force a contradiction. You must breathe deeply and slowly. A deep, slow exhale stimulates the vagus nerve, which activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode. It literally sends a signal to your brain saying, false alarm, we are safe, stand down. This is not spiritual woo-woo, this is mechanics. By taking one deliberate, heavy breath before you speak, you physically force the gap open. You wedge a block of ice into the gears of the overheating machine. The power of labeling. Once you have bought yourself that breath, that singular second of oxygen, what do? You name the demon. Neuroscience has shown that the simple act of labeling an emotion reduces its intensity. This is called affect labeling. When you're swept up in rage, you are the rage. There is no separation. But the moment you say to yourself, I am feeling anger right now, or I am feeling a desire to attack, you create a separation. You step out of the river and onto the bank. You move from being the subject, I am angry, to the observer, I notice that anger is present. This is the magic of the gap. In the gap, you are the observer. You are watching the data come in. Oh, look at that. My heart rate is 120. My hands are shaking. The voice in my head wants to call this person an idiot. Interesting. You treat your own reaction like a science experiment. You look at it with curiosity instead of judgment. Why is this upsetting me so much? Is it really about the dishes, or is it because I feel disrespected? Is this about them, or is it about me? This inquiry can only happen in the gap. Outside the gap, there is no curiosity, only combat. The choice of avatar. Here is the most empowering truth about the sacred gap. Inside that space, you get to choose who you want to be. We often talk about finding ourselves, as if our personality is a fixed object hidden under a rock. But we are not fixed. We are fluid. We are a collection of potential responses. In the gap, you're standing in a wardrobe of identities.
The stimulus comes in. A client screams at you. You enter the gap. You look at the options hanging on the rack. Option A, the victim. You can cry, take it personally, and ruin your week. Option B, the aggressor. You can scream back, burn the bridge, and feel a moment of satisfaction followed by regret. Option C, the stoic professional. You can listen, let the words pass through you, solve the problem, and keep the retainer. If you react instantly, you will almost always grab the oldest, dirtiest coat on the rack, the one you wore as a child. the one that protected you when you were weak. But in the gap, you have time to browse. You can say, I think today I will wear the coat of the professional. You put it on, you step out of the gap, and you act. This is what it means to be responsible. The word responsibility literally means response-ability, the ability to choose your response. If you cannot choose, you are not responsible. You are just a sequence of dominoes falling over. Widening the gap. At first, your gap will be narrow. It will feel like a fight just to get one breath in. You will fail often. You will catch yourself reacting and think, damn it, I missed the gap. That is okay. The realization that you missed it is the first step to catching it next time. But as you practice, the gap widens. What starts as a split-second hesitation becomes a 3-second pause. Then it becomes a minute of silence. Eventually, it becomes a permanent state of being. You begin to walk through the world with a permanent buffer zone around you.
Insults fly at you, and they seem to slow down in mid-air like bullets in the Matrix. You watch them float by. You examine them. You gently step out of the way. You stop taking things personally because you have time to see the truth, that people's bad behavior is rarely about you. It is about their pain, their stress, their lack of a gap. When you realize this, anger is replaced by pity, or indifference, or strategy, the void of potential. There is a terrifying aspect to the gap, which is why many people avoid it. In the gap, there is silence. In the gap, there is uncertainty. When you react instantly, you feel certain. You feel the rush of conviction. When you pause, you have to sit with the discomfort of the unknown. You have to sit with the tension. You have to be strong enough to hold the tension without discharging it. It requires a high tolerance for discomfort to stand in front of someone who is yelling and do absolutely nothing. Every fiber of your being wants to resolve the situation, either by fighting or fleeing. To stay in the gap is to stay in the fire, but this is the fire that refines gold. By holding that tension, you are building a massive reservoir of psychic power. The energy you don't spend on a cheap reaction is conserved. It builds up inside you, not as poison, but as potential. When you finally do speak, that energy is behind your words. This is why the words of a quiet person hit so hard. They are backed by all the energy they didn't waste on noise. The daily practice. You cannot wait for a crisis to practice finding the gap. You must practice in the low-stakes moments of normal life. Practice on the notifications. When your phone buzzes, do not pick it up immediately. Look at it, see the notification, feel the urge to check it. Then take one breath. Wait 5 seconds. Then pick it up. You have just created a gap. You have broken the conditioning. Practice on the physical discomfort. When you have an itch, don't scratch it immediately. Feel the itch, watch it. Wait 10 seconds, then scratch. You are training your brain that urge does not equal action. Practice on the hunger. When you want the snack, pause. Ask yourself, am I hungry or am I bored? The answer doesn't matter as much as the pause. These tiny reps are building the muscle. You are strengthening the braking system of your mind. So when the real heavy load comes, the breakup, the layoff, the betrayal, your brakes will hold. You won't careen off the cliff. The sacred ground. Treat this space as sacred ground. It is the temple of your sovereignty. No one can enter it without your permission. No one can force you out of it. They can scream, they can threaten, they can beg, but they cannot make you do anything until you decide to leave the gap. In a world of noise, the gap is your sanctuary. In a world of chaos, the gap is your order. In a world of slaves, the gap is where the kings and queens reside. Step into the space. Take a breath. Look around and choose. Chapter 5. The Fortress of Silence. Silence is the loudest sound in the world. We are terrified of it. From the moment we are born, we are surrounded by noise. We fill our homes with television.
We fill our cars with radio. We fill our ears with podcasts and music. And when we are with other people, we fill the air with words. We chatter about the weather, the news, the trivialities of the day, anything to avoid the heavy, crushing weight of silence. Why? Because silence feels like a void. And in that void, we feel naked. We feel that if we are not speaking, we are not existing. If we are not projecting, we are not controlling. But the masters of the ancient rule know the truth. Silence is not a void. Silence is a solid object. It is a wall. It is a weapon. It is a fortress. When you learn to wield silence, you stop being a participant in the chaos, and you become the context in which the chaos happens. You become the immovable object. In this chapter, we are going to learn how to stop using words as a shield and start using silence as a sword. We will explore the gray rock method of psychic defense, the art of the tactical pause, and the incredible power of letting other people drown in their own noise. The physics of the vacuum. Nature abhors a vacuum. This is a fundamental law of physics, and it is a fundamental law of social dynamics. If you create a space of silence in a conversation, the other person will instinctively, frantically rush to fill it. It makes them uncomfortable. It makes them feel the pressure of the unspoken. Most people, when faced with an uncomfortable silence, will start talking, and then they will keep talking. They will negotiate against themselves. They will reveal secrets they meant to keep hidden. They will try to justify lies that haven't even been questioned yet.
They will spill their truth just to plug the hole in the conversation. This is why interrogators, therapists, and master negotiators use silence as their primary tool. They know that if they just shut up and look at you, you will eventually tell them everything they want to know. When you react instantly, you relieve the pressure. Someone insults you. You insult them back. The pressure is released. You are now in a verbal tennis match, back and forth. It is comfortable, in a twisted way, because it is a known pattern. But if someone insults you and you say nothing, if you just look at them, the pressure builds. It bounces off your silence and slams back into them. They are left holding the insult. They are left wondering, did he hear me? Does he not care? Am I in trouble? Did I sound stupid? By remaining silent, you force the other person to sit in the spotlight of their own bad behavior. You turn the room into a mirror, and they are forced to look at themselves. The difference between passive and active silence. We must make a crucial distinction here. There is the silence of the victim, and there is the silence of the king. The silence of the victim is a shrinking silence. It is looking at the floor. It is biting the tongue out of fear. It is the silence of a dog hoping not to be kicked. This is not what we are practicing. The silence of the king, or the sovereign, is active. It is intense. It is eye contact. It is posture. It is a silence that says, I am listening, I am evaluating, and I have not yet decided if you are worth a response. This kind of silence is heavy.
It has gravity. It draws people in. When you practice the ancient rule, you are not ignoring reality. You are observing it with deadly precision. You are an apex predator watching from the tall grass. You are not hiding. You are waiting. The gray rock method. Now let us talk about defense. There are people in this world who are addicted to drama. We touched on this in Chapter 3. These are the narcissists, the toxic family members, the chaotic coworkers. They do not want a solution to their problems. They want an emotional reaction. They feed on your distress. They want to see you cry, scream, or argue. To them, you are a toy, and a toy is only fun if it makes a noise when you squeeze it. If you argue with them, they win. If you defend yourself, they win. If you try to use logic, they win, because they are not operating on logic. The only way to defeat them
is to become the most boring object in the universe. You must become a gray rock. A gray rock is uninteresting. It has no shiny surface. It does not speak. It does not change color. If you kick a gray rock, it does not scream. It just sits there. Eventually, the person kicking it gets bored and walks away to find something that breaks. This is the gray rock method. When you are dealing with a high-conflict person, you must strip your responses of all emotional content. They say, "You never support me. You are the worst partner ever." You say, in a monotone voice, "I hear that you are upset." They say, "Are you just going to sit there? You're pathetic." You say, "I have nothing to add right now."
You give them nothing. No anger, no tears, no sarcasm. You become a blank screen. This is incredibly difficult to do. Every fiber of your being will want to correct the lies. Your ego will scream, "Defend yourself." But you must understand the strategy. Any defense is fuel. By becoming a gray rock, you are cutting off their supply line. You are starving the conflict. It might take time. They might ramp up their behavior at first, trying harder to get a reaction. This is called an extinction burst. But eventually, they will give up. They will realize the toy is broken. You preserve your energy by refusing to engage in a war that has no winner. You stay safe inside the fortress of silence. Silence in the boardroom. Let's move from defense to offense. How do you use the fortress of silence to advance your career and your goals? In any negotiation or high-stakes meeting, the person who speaks the most usually has the least power. The junior employee babbles to prove they know the material. The nervous salesperson talks past the close, ruining the deal. The insecure manager shouts to prove they are in charge. The CEO? The CEO sits at the head of the table and listens. The CEO asks one question and then waits. When you are in a meeting, practice the art of the delayed response. When someone asks you a question, do not answer immediately. Take a beat. Look at them. Think. This signals three things. Confidence, you are not afraid of the silence. Thoughtfulness, you are actually considering the question, not just reciting a script. Control, you are operating on your own timeline, not theirs. And when you do speak, speak less. There is a concept in design called negative space.
It is the white space around the text or the logo. It is what makes the design look elegant and expensive. If you fill every inch of the page with ink, it looks like a clutter. It looks cheap. Your communication is the same. If you clutter the air with ums, ahs, apologies, and over-explanations, you sound cheap. You sound unsure. Strip away the fluff. Say what is true, say what is necessary, and then stop. Be comfortable with the period at the end of the sentence. Do not turn it into a comma. Do not trail off. State your case and then retreat into the fortress. Let your words hang in the air. Let the weight of them settle on the room. The shield against insults. There is an old story about the Buddha. One day, a man came to him and unleashed a torrent of abuse. He called the Buddha a fool, a fake, and a fraud. The Buddha listened patiently. When the man was finished and out of breath, the Buddha asked him a question. If you offer a gift to someone and they refuse to accept it, to whom does the gift belong? The man said, "Well, it belongs to me, I suppose." The Buddha smiled. Then I refuse your gift of anger. It remains with you. This is the ultimate function of the fortress. It allows you to decide what you let in. When someone throws a verbal spike at you, you do not have to catch it. You can let it hit the wall of the fortress and fall to the ground. You can look at the insult as a data point, not a dagger. He is calling me incompetent. That is interesting. Is it true? No.
Is he projecting his own fear of failure? Probably. Okay, data processed, discarded. You remain untouched. This drives people crazy. There is nothing more infuriating to an aggressor than a target that refuses to be a victim. Your calm is a rebuke to their chaos. Your silence is a mirror they cannot break. The internal silence. The fortress is not just for external enemies. It is for internal ones too. We all have that voice in our heads, the inner critic, the worrier, the saboteur. It chatters constantly. You're not good enough. They're going to laugh at you. You should have said this. The ancient rule teaches us to apply silence to our own minds. When the inner chatter becomes deafening, you do not argue with it. You do not try to outshout your own anxiety. You observe it. You say to yourself, I am having the thought that I am a failure. And then you return to the silence. You treat your own thoughts like passing clouds. You do not grab them. You do not wrestle with them. You let them float by the windows of the fortress. This is the essence of meditation, and it is the essence of mental toughness. It is the ability to detach from the noise of the mind and rest in the silence of the self, the tactical pause in conflict. Let's get specific about how to use this tomorrow. You are in an argument with your spouse or your boss. The temperature is rising. You feel the urge to interrupt, to correct them, to counterattack. Don't. Instead, employ the tactical pause. When they finish a sentence, count to 3 in your head. 1, 2, 3. In those 3 seconds, 2 things happen.
First, you ensure they are actually finished. Many arguments escalate because people interrupt each other, assuming they know what the other person is going to say. By waiting, you allow them to complete their thought. Often the last thing they say changes the meaning of the whole sentence. Second, you calm your own nervous system. You lower the temperature. Then, instead of attacking, you use a specific type of response, the mirror. You repeat the last 3 words they said, or you summarize their point without emotion. So you feel that I ignored your input on the project. And then, silence again. You put the ball back in their court. You force them to confirm or deny. You force them to clarify. By doing this, you are not fighting, you are navigating. You are de-escalating the situation by refusing to add more fuel to the fire. You are using the fortress to contain the explosion. The mystery factor. Finally, we must acknowledge the allure of the silent figure. We are drawn to people we cannot figure out. We are bored by people who tell us everything. When you practice the ancient rule, you become mysterious. People don't know what you are thinking. They don't know your next move. This makes you interesting. It makes you charismatic. You become a puzzle that everyone wants to solve. In a world of oversharing, where everyone is broadcasting their breakfast and their breakdown on social media, privacy is the new luxury. Reticence is the new power. Keep your cards close to your chest. Don't tell everyone your plans. Don't announce your moves, just make them. Let your results speak for you. Let your success make the noise. Building the walls. This week, I want you to build your fortress.
I want you to find one conversation where you would normally talk a lot, and I want you to cut your word count in half. I want you to find one conflict where you would normally defend yourself, and I want you to say nothing. I want you to find one moment where you would normally pick up your phone to fill the boredom, and I want you to just sit there and stare at the wall. Feel the discomfort. It will feel itchy. It will feel wrong. But stay with it. Lean into the silence. Realize that the silence is not empty. It is full of power. It is the only place where you are truly safe. The world will try to batter down your gates with noise. It will send distractions, insults, and emergencies to try to draw you out. Do not open the gate. Stand on the ramparts, look down at the chaos, and smile. Because inside the fortress of silence, you are the king. Chapter 6. Cold Fire. There is a dangerous misconception about the ancient rule. When people hear "do not react," they often imagine a person who is numb. They picture a monk in a coma, a person who has been lobotomized, someone who has no fire, no passion, and no spine. They think that to be non-reactive is to be dead inside. Let me be very clear. The goal of this book is not to turn you into a stone. The goal is to turn you
into a laser. You are a human being. You have blood in your veins, not coolant. When you are disrespected, betrayed, or attacked, you will feel anger. You should feel anger. Anger is a natural, evolutionary response to a boundary violation.
It is the body's way of saying, this is wrong. If you did not feel anger, you would be defenseless. You would be prey. The problem is not the emotion. The problem is the temperature of the emotion. Most people operate on red fire. Red fire is wild. It is explosive. It consumes everything it touches, including the person holding it. It is the fire of the tantrum, the road rage, the screaming match. It is messy and it burns out quickly, leaving nothing but ash and regret. The sovereign operates on cold fire. Cold fire is the blue part of the flame. It is scientifically hotter than the red part, but it is stable. It is contained. It does not flicker in the wind. It cuts through steel. This chapter is about alchemy. It is about taking the raw, volatile sludge of your immediate emotional reaction and refining it into high-octane fuel for your ambition. We are not here to suppress your anger. We are here to harness it. The physics of emotion. To understand cold fire, you must understand the first law of thermodynamics. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transferred or changed from one form to another. Your anger is energy. It is a massive spike of potential power. When you are in a state of rage, you have more energy available to you than at any other time. Your senses are heightened. Your pain tolerance is higher. Your endurance is practically limitless. The average person wastes this gift. They take this precious, high-grade nuclear energy and they blow it on a Facebook comment. They waste it on shouting at a television screen. They leak it out into the atmosphere, heating up the room but accomplishing nothing. This is a tragedy. It is like using a stick of dynamite to light a cigarette. You are wasting the explosion. The master of the ancient rule feels the surge. They feel the adrenaline hit the bloodstream. But instead of opening their mouth to let it out, they close the blast doors. They keep the pressure inside. They compress the energy. And as any physicist knows, when you compress a gas, it gets hotter. It gets more powerful. The danger of suppression. We must distinguish between transmutation, cold fire, and suppression. Suppression is what happens when you are afraid of your anger. You swallow it. You smile politely while you're screaming inside. You tell yourself, I shouldn't be mad. Nice people don't get mad. This is toxic. This is the beach ball held underwater. You can only hold it down for so long before your arms get tired, and then it launches into your face. Suppression makes you sick. It leads to ulcers, high blood pressure, and passive-aggressive behavior. It turns the anger inward where it eats your own organs. Transmutation is different. Transmutation is not denial. It is redirection. You acknowledge the anger fully. You say to yourself, I am absolutely furious right now. I want to destroy this person. You validate the feeling, but then you detach the feeling from the action. You say, I am going to take this ball of fire in my chest, and instead of throwing it at them, I am going to throw it into my work. You use the anger as a battering ram to break through your own procrastination. You use it to lift the heavier weight. You use it to make the 100th sales call. Suppression says, don't feel. Transmutation says, feel but don't leak. The spite drive. Let's be honest about one of the most potent motivators in human history. Spite. We are told that we should be motivated by love and light and altruism. And sure, those are beautiful things. But if you want to see a human being achieve the impossible, watch someone who has been told they can't do it. Watch someone who has been underestimated, mocked, or rejected. There is a specific kind of focus that comes from the desire to prove someone wrong. It is sharp, cold, and relentless. When someone insults you, they are handing you a gift. They're handing you a free tank of gasoline. The reactive person pours the gas on themselves and lights a match. The sovereign pours the gas into their engine and drives past the person who gave it to them. Think of the spite drive as a secondary engine in your ship. When the seas are calm and you are happy, you run on the engine of passion. But when the storm hits, when you are tired, when you want to quit, you switch to the spite drive. You think of the person who said you would fail. You think of the ex who left you. You think of the teacher who said you were average. And you let that memory burn. You don't call them. You don't text them. You don't argue with them. You outwork them. The best revenge is not a witty comeback. The best revenge is massive, undeniable success. The best revenge is a life so well lived that the person who hurt you becomes a footnote in your biography. The surgeon's mind. Consider the mindset of a trauma surgeon. A patient is wheeled in. They are bleeding out. The situation is chaotic, bloody, and terrifying.
Does the surgeon panic? No. Does the surgeon start screaming and crying about the tragedy of life? No. Does the surgeon get angry at the bullet that caused the wound? No. The surgeon enters a state of cold fire. They are hyper-focused. Their hands are steady. They're moving with urgency, but not with haste. They have cut away all emotion that does not serve the immediate goal of saving the life. If they were to react emotionally to the blood, the patient would die. They must respond clinically to the damage. When you are in a crisis, whether it is a financial collapse, a divorce, or a PR nightmare, you must become the surgeon. You cannot afford the luxury of hysteria. You cannot afford to weep over the unfairness of it all. You have to look at the bleeding wound of your life and pick up the scalpel. Okay, this happened. It is bad. I am angry. Now what is the next correct move? This is cold fire. It is the ability to function at the highest level while the world is burning down around you. It is the ability to be the calmest person in the room, not because you don't care, but because you care too much to lose your head. The incubation period. Cold fire requires time to set. Red fire is instant. Cold fire is slow. When the trigger happens, you need an incubation period. This goes back to the gap we discussed in Chapter 4, but it extends further. Sometimes you need to be angry for 3 days before you act. Sometimes you need to let the anger marinate until it stops being an emotion and starts being a plan. There is an old saying, revenge is a dish best served cold. Why?
Because when it is hot, it is sloppy. When you strike in the heat of the moment, you miss. You leave fingerprints. You make mistakes. When the dish is cold, it means you have waited. You have calculated. You have removed the passion and replaced it with precision. I am not advocating for actual revenge. That is usually a waste of time. But the principle applies to success. If you want to beat a competitor, don't do it the day they annoy you. Plan a strategy that renders them obsolete 6 months from now. If you want to confront a toxic boss, don't do it when he yells at you. Do it when you have your resignation letter, your new job offer, and your exit strategy perfectly aligned. The person with cold fire plays the long game. They are willing to lose the battle today to win the war next year. The reactive person needs to win the battle right now, and because of that, they lose the war every time. Technique. The burn letter. How do we process the initial explosion without hurting anyone? We use the burn letter technique. Abraham Lincoln was famous for this. When he was furious with a general or a politician, he would sit down and write a scathing letter. He would pour all his vitriol, his sarcasm, and his rage onto the paper. He would hold nothing back. Then he would fold the letter, put it in his desk drawer, and leave it there. He never sent them. Historians found stacks of these letters after he died. Why did he do this? Because he knew he had to get the poison out of his system, but he also knew he couldn't afford to poison his relationships. Writing the letter transferred the energy from his mind to the physical world. It was a release valve. Once the words were on paper, the pressure in his brain dropped. He could look at the situation with cold fire. He could write a second letter, the one he actually sent, that was diplomatic, firm, and effective. You should do the same. When you are triggered, open a blank document. Type everything you want to say. Use all the curse words. Be petty. Be cruel. Let the red fire pour out of your fingertips. Then, delete the file. Or print it and burn it. Do not put an email address in the "to" field. Do not save it as a draft where you might accidentally send it. Get it out. Then, once you are empty, ask yourself, what do I actually need to achieve here? The look of cold fire. You can recognize someone who has mastered this. They have a different look in their eye. When you yell at a reactive person, their eyes widen. They look frantic. When you yell at a sovereign, their eyes narrow slightly. They become still. Their breathing slows down. They don't look like they're about to run away. They look like they are calculating the distance to your throat. That look, that focused predatory calm, is infinitely more intimidating than screaming. It triggers a primal fear in the aggressor. The aggressor realizes, I have made a mistake. I have woken up something I cannot control. This is the power you are building. You want to be the person that people are afraid to mess with, not because you are violent, but because you are formidable. A person who cannot control their temper is not formidable. They are a child. A person who controls their temper with absolute discipline is a force of nature. Transmuting fear. It is worth noting that this same alchemy works on fear. Fear and excitement are biologically almost identical. Both involve a racing heart, sweaty palms, and high energy. The only difference is the narrative you tell yourself. When you feel the fear of a big presentation or the fear of a confrontation, do not try to calm down. Calming down is trying to go from 100 miles per hour to 0 miles per hour. It is impossible. Instead, shift the gear. Tell yourself, I am not afraid. I am ready. This shaking in my hands, that is my body preparing for battle. That is my fuel. Turn the anxiety into intensity. The shaky voice becomes the passionate voice. The restless energy becomes dynamic movement. You take the vibration of fear and you tighten it until it becomes the vibration of power. The ultimate fuel. Ultimately, cold fire is about efficiency. Life is hard. Achieving great things is exhausting. You need every ounce of energy you can get. Why would you throw away the massive energy spikes that come from conflict? Why would you waste your anger on the ground? Hoard it, keep it, refine it. Let the doubters provide your motivation. Let the haters provide your marketing. Let the obstacles provide your training. Become an engine that runs on everything. If they give you love, use it. If they give you hate, use it. If they give you silence, use it. Nothing goes to waste. You are a machine of perpetual motion, and the very things intended to stop you are the things that make you go faster.
Chapter 7. The Unmovable Object. There is a fundamental law of physics that governs every conflict you will ever experience. When an unstoppable force meets an unmovable object, the unstoppable force shatters. We are conditioned to believe that in a fight, we must be the force. We think we must meet aggression with aggression, fire with fire, shout with shout. We think that if someone pushes us, we must push back harder to prove our strength. But look at the cliff face standing against the ocean. The ocean is violent. It screams, it crashes, it throws millions of tons of water against the rock, day after day, century after century. The ocean is the definition of doing something. The cliff does nothing. It simply stands. It does not argue with the wave. It does not try to outsplash the ocean. It remains solid. And in the end, it is the wave that breaks.
The water shatters into mist and retreats, defeated by the simple fact of the cliff's existence. To master the ancient rule, you must stop trying to be the wave. You must become the unmovable object. This chapter is about direct conflict. We are moving past the passive defense of silence and into the active resilience required when someone is in your face, demanding a reaction, attacking your character, or trying to dismantle your life. This is about how to stand your ground when every instinct in your body is screaming at you to flee or fight, the illusion of the threat.
It makes them look 10 feet tall. It makes their voice sound like the voice of God. It makes their opinion feel like a court verdict. This is an illusion. You must strip away the hologram. Look at the reality of what is happening. A human being is making noises with their mouth. That is it. They are not holding a gun. They are not a tiger. They are a bag of water and calcium vibrating the air with their vocal cords because they are experiencing an internal chemical imbalance. When you view an attacker through this lens, they stop being a monster and start being a specimen. You stop thinking, oh no, I am in danger. You start thinking, this person is having a malfunction. This shift in perspective is the foundation of the unmovable object. You cannot be intimidated by something you do not respect as a threat. A lion does not concern itself with the opinion of a sheep. A sovereign does not concern themselves with the tantrums of the reactive. The art of fogging. In the martial art of Aikido, you never block a punch directly. If you block force with force, you get bruised. Instead, you accept the energy of the attack and guide it past you. In verbal conflict, we call this fogging. Imagine throwing a rock at a fog bank. What happens? The rock passes right through. The fog does not fight back. It does not break. It just exists. The rock hits nothing and falls harmlessly to the ground. When someone attacks you with criticism or insults, do not put up a wall of "no, you're wrong." That is a solid surface they can hit. Instead, become fog. Agree with them, in part, or in principle, or in possibility.
You are the most disorganized person I have ever met. You're useless. I am not. I work harder than you. Bang. The rock hits the wall. The fight begins. Unmovable response. You might be right. I have been struggling with organization lately. Watch what happens. You have just agreed with them. You have stolen their ammunition. They cannot fight you because you are not fighting. They braced themselves for resistance, and they fell forward into empty air. This is not admitting defeat. It is a tactical maneuver. You are acknowledging the grain of truth in their statement, if there is one, while ignoring the emotional venom. You might be right is the ultimate de-escalation phrase. It costs you nothing to say, but it buys you total control of the interaction. The broken record technique. Sometimes the attacker is not just insulting you, they are trying to manipulate you. They want you to change your mind, bend your boundaries, or give in to their demands. They will use guilt, anger, and pleading. To remain unmovable, you must use the broken record technique. This involves stating your boundary clearly and concisely, and then repeating it, using the exact same words no matter what the other person says. Them. I need you to come in this weekend. It's an emergency. You. I have plans this weekend, so I cannot come in. Them. You aren't a team player. Don't you care about this company? You. I understand you are stressed, but I have plans this weekend, so I cannot come in. Them. I can't believe you are doing this to me. You. I hear that you are disappointed, but I cannot come in. Notice what you are doing. You are not offering new excuses. You are not getting defensive. You are not explaining what your plans are, which would give them something to attack. You are a wall. A wall does not change its shape because you scream at it. Eventually, the other person runs out of energy. They realize that no matter what angle they come from, the answer is the same.
This requires immense discipline. The urge to justify is strong. We want to say, I can't come in because my mother is sick, or because I worked last weekend. But reasons are for reasonable people. When you are dealing with an aggressor, reasons are just openings for negotiation. Close the door. Lock it. Stand still. The posture of the mountain. Your mind takes cues from your body. You cannot feel like an unmovable object if you are slouching, fidgeting, or crossing your arms protectively. When the conflict starts, check your physics. Plant your feet shoulder-width apart. Feel the floor. Imagine roots growing out of your heels, drilling through the concrete, deep into the earth. Straighten your spine. Drop your shoulders. When we are attacked, our shoulders instinctively rise to protect our neck. Drop them. This signals to your brain that you are not afraid. Keep your hands open and relaxed. Fists signal a fight. Open hands signal control. Breathe into your stomach. Low, deep, slow. This posture, the posture of the mountain, creates a feedback loop. Your body tells your mind, we are stable, we are heavy. Simultaneously, it signals to the attacker that they are not affecting you. Predators look for weakness. They look for the flinch. When you do not flinch, when you simply expand your presence to fill the space, you disrupt their predatory program. They become unsure. The unstoppable force begins to doubt its own power. The mental aikido of, is that it? There is a devastatingly effective mental frame you can use when someone is unleashing a tirade against you. Wait for them to finish. Let them scream. Let them list all your faults. Let them threaten you. When they finally run out of breath and stop, look at them with mild curiosity and think, or even say, is that it? This question implies that you were expecting something more. It implies that their worst attack was underwhelming. It frames their explosion not as a terrifying event, but as a small, slightly boring performance. Attacker, I'm going to fire you. I'm going to ruin your reputation. You'll never work in this town again. You, calmly, I hear what you are saying. Is there anything else you'd like to add? This is the ultimate power move. It shows that your container is bigger than their content. They tried to overflow your cup, but you are not a cup. You are a lake. Their cup of poison is diluted instantly in the vastness of your composure, detaching from the avatar. Why do insults hurt? They hurt because they hit our avatar, the image we have constructed of ourselves. I am a smart person. I am a good worker. I am a loving partner. When someone attacks that image, we feel pain. We feel the need to defend the avatar. But the unmovable object knows a secret. You are not your avatar. You are the consciousness behind the avatar. When someone insults you, visualize them shooting arrows at a statue of you. You are standing 5 feet away, watching. Look, you say to yourself, they are shooting arrows at the statue. They really hate that statue. Look at them chipping away the paint. You do not have to jump in front of the arrows. You do not have to bleed for the statue. Let them attack the image. The image is not you. This is what the Stoics meant by invulnerability. It doesn't mean you can't be hit. It means the part of you that matters cannot be harmed. If someone calls you an idiot, that is a sound wave traveling through the air. It only becomes pain if you catch it and stab yourself with it. Don't catch it. Watch it fly past and hit the wall behind you. The power of letting it land. In our rush to defend ourselves, we often interrupt the attacker. We don't want to hear the bad words, but the unmovable object lets the words land. If someone says something cruel, let there be silence afterwards. Let the cruelty hang in the air. Don't rush to wipe it up. Don't rush to counter it. Let everyone in the room, including the attacker, look at what was just said. Ugliness, when left exposed to the air, starts to smell. If you react instantly, you cover up their ugliness with your own noise. If you stay silent, their ugliness stands alone. Often, the attacker will become embarrassed. They will start to backtrack. "I didn't mean it like that." By doing nothing, you have forced them to confront their own reflection. Refusal to accept the gift. We return to the concept of ownership. Conflict is an invitation. It is an invitation to a dance. The other person is extending their hand, asking you to join them on the dance floor of dysfunction. They want to waltz through the steps of accusation, defense, escalation, and regret. You can simply decline the invitation. You can look at their outstretched hand and say, "No, thank you. I don't dance." This refusal is not passive. It is an active rejection of their reality. They are trying to pull you into a reality where you're a victim, or a villain, or a failure. You stay in your reality, where you are capable, calm, and in control. Whoever holds their reality the strongest wins. If you react, you have entered their reality. If you remain unmovable, you force them to enter yours, or to leave. The conservation of energy. Think about the aftermath of a fight where you lost your cool. You are exhausted. Your hands are shaking. You can't focus for the rest of the day. You replay the argument in your head 1,000 times. Now, think about the attacker. They're likely exhausted too. Now picture the unmovable object scenario. The attacker screams, rages, and expends massive amounts of emotional calories. You stand there. You breathe. You speak calmly. You do not spike your cortisol. When the interaction is over, the attacker is drained. They are empty. You are full. You are ready to go back to work. You are ready to enjoy your evening. This is the ultimate competitive advantage. While the world is burning itself out in cycles of reactive drama, you are stockpiling energy. You are the bank that never gets robbed, becoming the cliff. The next time the storm comes, and it will come, do not be afraid. Do not brace yourself for impact with fear. Brace yourself with the knowledge of what you are. You are the cliff. Let the waves crash. Let the spray fly. Let the noise be deafening. Hold your ground. Keep your eyes open.
And watch as the unstoppable force breaks itself against your peace. Chapter 8. The King's Gambit. In the game of chess, there is a concept known as Zugzwang. It is a German word that translates to compulsion to move. It describes a situation where a player is not in check, but it is their turn to move, and every legal move they can make will worsen their position. They would be better off doing absolutely nothing. They would be better off passing their turn, but the rules of the game force them to act. And because they are forced to act, they lose. In the game of life, you are often in a position where the person who moves first loses. Most people do not understand this. They believe that initiative belongs to the aggressor. They believe that the person who speaks first, moves first, and strikes first controls the board. They are wrong. In high-stakes interactions, whether it is a multi-million-dollar negotiation, a delicate diplomatic crisis, or a battle for dominance in a relationship, the power belongs to the counterpuncher. The power belongs to the one who waits. We have spent the last 7 chapters discussing defense. We have talked about how to protect your peace, how to shield your mind, and how to survive the storm. Now we switch gears. We are no longer talking about survival. We are talking about conquest. This is the King's Gambit, the strategic use of non-reaction to force your opponent into Zugzwang, compelling them to make a mistake that you can exploit. The information asymmetry. Information is the most valuable commodity on Earth. In any interaction, there is an exchange of information. When you speak, you are giving information away.
You are revealing what you know, what you want, what you fear,
and what you value. When you listen, you are harvesting information. You are learning what the other person knows, wants, fears, and values. The equation is simple. The person who speaks less acquires more intelligence. The person who speaks more leaks intelligence. Imagine a negotiation for a salary raise. The reactive employee walks in and immediately starts talking. I need a raise because I've been working hard and rent is going up and I have another offer and I really like it here, but stop. You have just shown all your cards. The boss now knows your pressure points. They know you are desperate. They know you are afraid of leaving. They can now construct a counteroffer that gives you the bare minimum required to keep you. Now imagine the sovereign approach. You walk in, you sit down, you thank them for the meeting, and you wait. You ask a question. How do you see my future at this company? And then you go silent. The boss has to fill the void. They start talking about your performance. They reveal how much they need you. They might even reveal that they are worried about losing you. By reacting later, by holding your tongue, you let them set the floor. You let them bid against themselves. This is the golden rule of leverage. He who mentions the number first loses. The vacuum of authority. Nature hates a vacuum, but power loves it. There is a strange psychological phenomenon that happens when you are in the presence of someone who does not react. You instinctively project authority onto them. Think about the structure of a royal court. The courtiers are buzzing around, whispering, plotting, laughing, and panicking. They are reactive. The king sits on the throne. He does not move. He does not whisper. He speaks only when the final decision is required. His stillness creates a vacuum. The courtiers rush to fill it with their loyalty, their secrets, and their attention. When you enter a room and you are the most reactive person there, checking your phone, laughing too loud at jokes, jumping into every conversation, you were signaling that you were a courtier. You were signaling that you are fighting for scraps of attention. When you enter a room and you are still, when you keep your counsel, when you observe rather than participate, you signal that you are the king. You signal that you do not need attention because you already have power. People will start to work for your validation. They will try to make you smile. They will try to get you to react. By withholding the reaction, you increase its value. A compliment from the person who never speaks is worth 10 times as much as a compliment from the person who talks all day. The interrogation technique. Police interrogators are masters of the ancient rule. When they get a suspect in the box, they don't always scream and shout. The good cop often just sits there. They ask a question. The suspect answers. The cop doesn't write it down. He doesn't nod. He just looks at the suspect. He waits. 4 seconds pass. 10 seconds pass. The suspect starts to panic. Does he not believe me? Did I say something wrong? I need to fix it. So the suspect starts talking again. I was there, but I didn't see anything. Well, I saw a little bit. The silence broke them. The need to react to the silence forced them to incriminate themselves. You can use this in your business and personal life, ethically, of course. When someone gives you an excuse for why they didn't do their job, don't scream. Just look at them. Wait. They will eventually start apologizing. They will start making promises. They will effectively manage themselves because your silence is making them uncomfortable with their own failure. You don't have to be the bad guy. You just have to be the mirror, the sniper's mindset. The machine gunner fires 1,000 rounds in hopes to hit something. The sniper fires 1 round and changes history. Reactivity is machine gun fire. It is spray and pray. It is messy, loud, and inefficient. The King's Gambit is the sniper shot. It requires patience.
It requires you to sit in the bushes for 3 days, waiting for the perfect moment. In a meeting, let everyone else debate. Let them argue in circles. Let them exhaust their energy and their ideas. Take notes. Watch the dynamics. See who is allied with whom. Then, in the last 10 minutes of the meeting, speak. Synthesize what everyone has said. Point out the flaw that everyone missed. Propose the solution. Because you waited, your voice sounds fresh. Because you listened, your solution is informed. The person who speaks last usually controls the conclusion. The person who speaks first is just setting the table for the real players, handling the low ball. Let's look at a specific tactical application, the negotiation flinch. You are selling a house, a car, or your services. The buyer gives you an insulting low offer. The reactive person gets offended. That's ridiculous. I know what this is worth. Now you are in a fight. You are emotional.
The pause. A long, heavy silence. At least 5 seconds. Look at the offer, then look at them. Look confused, not angry. The flinch. A subtle physical reaction. A slight recoil. A look that says, "Oh, I am embarrassed for you that you just said that." The soft no. "I'm afraid I can't do that." And then, silence again. You put the monkey back on their back. You do not counteroffer. You do not explain why it is worth more. You simply reject the premise of their move. Often the buyer will immediately jump in. Okay, look, I can come up to... They bid against themselves because your non-reaction signaled that they were so far off the mark that a conversation wasn't even possible. Emotional jujitsu. In relationships, the King's Gambit is about refusing to catch the ball of drama. We often get drawn into arguments about tone rather than substance. Your partner says something provocative. You react to the tone. You snap back. Now the argument is about your reaction. Why are you yelling at me? You have lost the high ground. You are now the defendant. The King's Gambit looks like this. They say something provocative. You ignore the tone completely. You strip the sentence of its emotional barbs and respond only to the data. Them. You care more about your stupid work than you do about this family. You, calmly. You are feeling neglected because I've been working late. Let's look at the schedule and find time for us. You didn't take the bait. You didn't defend the work. It's not stupid. You didn't attack them back. You sidestepped the emotional attack and went straight to the problem. This is disarming.
It is very hard to keep fighting with someone who refuses to fight but insists on solving the problem. You maintain your dignity and you steer the ship out of the storm. The strategic, I don't know. There is immense power in refusing to have an opinion immediately. In our culture, we are pressured to have a hot take on everything. Someone asks, "What do you think about the new policy?" The reactive person blurts out an opinion that might get them in trouble later. The sovereign says, "I'm still processing the data. I don't have an opinion yet." This buys you time. It protects you from making a premature commitment. It makes you look thoughtful rather than impulsive. Never let anyone rush you into a decision. I need an answer now. If you need an answer right now, the answer is no. If you can wait until tomorrow, the answer might be yes. See how that works? By refusing to be rushed, you reestablish control of the timeline. You remind them that you are the one granting the favor, not the one begging for it. The power of walking away. The ultimate non-reaction is the walk-away. In any negotiation, the person who is most willing to walk away has the most power. If you must have the deal, you are a slave to the deal. If you are willing to stand up, shake hands, and leave without the deal, you are the master. This is the nuclear option of the King's Gambit. When the terms are not right, when the disrespect is too high, simply disengage. Do not make a scene. Do not threaten to leave. Just leave. It seems we cannot reach an agreement. I wish you the best. And you go.
This shocks the system. People are used to bluffing. They're used to threats.
They are not used to someone who simply assesses the value, finds it lacking, and exits. Often, this is the only thing that brings them back to the table with a real offer. And if it doesn't, you saved yourself from a bad deal. You win either way, mastering the delayed strike. Sometimes you do need to attack. You do need to fire someone, break up with someone, or destroy a competitor. The King's Gambit dictates that you never do this while you are angry. You do it when you are ready. You smile, you nod, you gather your resources, you line up your ducks, and then, on a Tuesday morning when everything is quiet, you execute the move. It is clinical. It is precise. Because it comes from a place of calm, it cannot be argued with. It is not an emotional outburst. It is a final judgment. The sovereign does not swing wildly. The sovereign executes. The silence of the Sphinx. History remembers the silent leaders. The Sphinx sits in the desert, staring at the horizon, unmoving for thousands of years. Empires rise and fall, armies march past, storms rage, the Sphinx remains. Its mystery is its power. You must cultivate a little bit of the Sphinx in your personality. Stop feeling the need to explain yourself to everyone. Stop feeling the need to fill every silence. Stop feeling the need to correct every wrong. Sit back. Watch the board. Let the pawns rush forward to their doom. Keep your pieces in reserve, and when you move, make sure it is the only move that matters. Checkmate.
Chapter 9. The Inner Citadel. There is a line from the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius that serves as the blueprint for this entire philosophy. He wrote it in a tent on the edge of the empire, surrounded by war, plague, and betrayal. He wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." He called this the inner citadel. Up until this point, we have discussed tactics. We have talked about the gap, the gray rock, and the King's Gambit. These are tools. They are weapons you pick up when you are under attack. But you cannot live your life holding a weapon. You cannot walk around constantly bracing for impact, constantly counting to 10, constantly analyzing the chessboard. That is not freedom. That is vigilance. Vigilance is exhausting. The ultimate goal of the ancient rule is not to become a person who is good at managing their reactions. The goal is to become a person who does not need to react. There is a difference between a man who is holding his breath to stay underwater and a fish that lives there. One is struggling against nature. The other is at home. In this chapter, we are going to build the inner citadel. We are going to construct a core identity that is so solid, so self-sufficient, and so grounded that the chaos of the outside world simply ceases to be a threat. We are moving from technique to being, the fallacy of the safe space. The modern world tells you that you are entitled to a safe space. It tells you that if the world is harsh, the world should change. It tells you that if words hurt you, those words should be banned.
It tells you that your environment should be curated to protect your fragility. This is a lie, and it is a dangerous lie. The world is not a safe place. It never has been, and it never will be. There will always be rude people. There will always be traffic, taxes, illness, and betrayal. Trying to carpet the entire world so you don't stub your toe is a fool's errand. The Stoics knew that you do not carpet the world, you wear shoes. The inner citadel is your shoes. It is the understanding that you cannot control the weather, but you can build a roof that does not leak. When you rely on the external world to be nice to you in order to feel peace, you have outsourced your happiness to a chaotic universe. You are a slave to circumstance. If the barista is rude, your day is ruined. If the traffic is bad, your blood pressure spikes. The master of the citadel says, "Let the storm rage. My fire is lit inside." Defining the walls. What is this citadel made of?
It is not made of stone or steel. It is made of principles. A reactive person is a shapeshifter. They take the shape of whatever container they are in. If they are with angry people, they become angry. If they are with anxious people, they become anxious. They have no rigid structure. The sovereign has structure. You must define a code that you live by, a code that does not change based on who is in the room. I am a person who does not gossip. I am a person who keeps my word. I am a person who prioritizes logic over emotion.
I am a person who is kind to those who can do nothing for me. These are your walls. When you know who you are, you don't have to argue about it. If someone calls you a liar, but you know, deep in your citadel, that you are rigorously honest, the insult doesn't land. It sounds absurd. It's like someone calling you a giraffe. You don't get angry. You just think, that's incorrect, and move on. Reactivity comes from insecurity. We react because we are afraid the other person might be right. We react because we need them to validate our identity. When your identity is locked inside the citadel, you don't need their validation. You have your own. The sky and the weather. Imagine the sky. The sky is vast, blue, and infinite. Now imagine a thunderstorm. Clouds gather, lightning strikes, the wind screams. It looks terrifying. But has the sky changed? No. The storm is happening in the sky, but it is not the sky. The sky contains the storm, but the sky is not damaged by the storm. Eventually, the clouds pass, and the blue remains, untouched. This is the relationship between your consciousness, the citadel, and your emotions, the weather. Most people think they are the weather. I am angry. I am sad. No. You are the space in which anger is happening. You are the space in which sadness is passing through. The inner citadel is the realization that you are the sky. When a crisis hits, you retreat into this observer mode. You watch the adrenaline spike. You watch the fear rise. But you don't identify with it. You don't say, I am destroyed. You say, there is a storm passing through my system.
This detachment is the strongest armor in the world. You can stand in the middle of a screaming match and feel completely untouched because you are identifying with the silence behind the noise, not the noise itself. The self-sufficient generator. In the citadel, you have your own power source. Most people are plugged into the grid of public opinion. They run on the electricity of likes, compliments, promotions, and approval. When the world unplugs them, when they get criticized or ignored, their lights go out. They crash. To build the citadel, you must install your own generator. You must learn to generate your own dopamine and your own self-worth. This means you do good work, not for the applause, but because you respect the craft. You stay fit, not for the Instagram photo, but because you respect your body. You act with integrity, not to be praised, but because you respect your own reflection. When you are self-powered, you are dangerous. You cannot be manipulated. If you don't do this, we won't like you. That's fine, you say. I like me. This level of self-sufficiency is often mistaken for arrogance, but it is actually the opposite. Arrogance requires an audience. Arrogance begs to be looked at. The inner citadel requires nothing. It is content in the dark. The art of amor fati. There is a secret weapon inside the citadel called amor fati, a Latin phrase meaning love of fate. The reactive person fights reality. This shouldn't be happening. Why me? This is unfair. This resistance creates suffering. The gap between what is and what you want it to be is where the pain lives. The sovereign accepts reality immediately and unconditionally. The car broke down. Good. I will learn to fix it. I lost a client. Good. I will find a better one. They insulted me. Good. I will practice my patience. This is the ultimate shield. How can you hurt someone who welcomes every blow as a training exercise? You cannot break a person who treats every disaster as a challenge. When you love fate, you are never a victim. You are always a student. You are always an athlete in the gym of life, and the heavy weights are just making you stronger. The citadel does not shake when the earthquake hits. The citadel settles deeper into the foundation. The moat of solitude. You cannot build the citadel in a crowd. We live in a noisy world. We are constantly bombarded by the thoughts, opinions, and anxieties of billions of other people through our screens. If you are always connected, you are always breached. To build the inner citadel, you need a moat. That moat is solitude. You must carve out time where you are alone with your own mind. No phone, no music, no books, just you. Most people are terrified of this. If they sit alone for 10 minutes, they panic. They realize they don't like the company of their own thoughts, so they reach for the distraction. But you must sit there. You must clean house. You must look at your thoughts and say, is this mine? Or did I pick this up from the news? Is this anxiety mine? Or is it my mother's? In solitude, you fortify your walls. You reconnect with your center. You remember who you are. A sovereign who cannot be alone is not a sovereign. They are a dependent. Practice the discipline of the moat. Take a walk without headphones. Drive in silence.
Sit in a room and stare at the wall. Conquer the fear of boredom, and you conquer the fear of yourself. The view from above. When the walls of the citadel are high, you can climb to the top and look out. The Stoics practiced the view from above. When you are stuck in the mud of a problem, it seems huge. It seems like the end of the world. But if you zoom out to your city, you are just a speck. Zoom out to the planet, your city is a speck. Zoom out to history, your entire lifespan is a blink of an eye. From the top of the citadel, you see the truth. None of this matters as much as you think it does. The argument that is ruining your day, in 10 years, you won't remember it. The person who cut you off, they are fighting their own battle and will be dead in a century. The embarrassment you feel, it is a chemical reaction in a tiny organism on a rock spinning through space. This is not nihilism. This is perspective. When you realize how small the drama is, you stop giving it your life force. You stop trading your peace for pennies. You realize that the only thing that truly matters is the integrity of your own soul in this present moment. Everything else is just noise, the unshakable core. Imagine a ship in a hurricane. On the deck, the waves are crashing, the wind is howling, and things are sliding back and forth. It is chaos. But deep down in the hull, below the waterline, there is a ballast, a heavy weight of lead or iron. It sits in the dark. It does not move. Because of that ballast, the ship can tilt, but it will not capsize. It always rights itself. Your inner citadel is your ballast. You will still feel emotions. You will still feel grief. You will still feel anger. But you will not capsize. You will feel the ship tilt, and you will trust the ballast to pull you back to center. You are no longer the leaf that blows away. You are the roly-poly toy that gets punched down and immediately bounces back up. Is that all you got? You ask the world. And the world, eventually, respects you. The world steps aside for the person who cannot be knocked off course. Integration. How do you know when the citadel is built? You know it when silence becomes your default setting. You know it when you stop needing to have the last word. You know it when bad news doesn't ruin your breakfast. You begin to move through the world with a quiet confidence. You don't have to posture, you don't have to shout, you don't have to prove anything. You walk into a room and you bring the citadel with you. You bring a radius of calm.
People feel safer around you because they can sense that you are solid. You become a leader not because you demand it, but because people naturally want to hold on to something stable in a spinning world. You become the rock. This is the ultimate victory of the ancient rule. It is not just that you stopped reacting to the puppet master. It is that you have fired him. You have cut the strings, you have walked off his stage and built your own kingdom. And inside that kingdom, inside the inner citadel, there is peace.
Not the peace of a vacation, but the peace of a fortress. The peace of knowing that no matter what comes over the horizon, you are ready. Chapter 10. The Sovereign Mind. We have reached the summit. We began this journey in the mud. We began as puppets, dancing on strings held by our parents, our bosses, our enemies, and our own biology. We moved through the mechanics of the outburst, the biology of the brain, and the physics of silence. We learned to light the cold fire and build the fortress. Now, we stand at the gates of the final destination, the sovereign mind. The word sovereign comes from the Latin superanus, meaning above. To be sovereign is to be the supreme ruler of a domain. In the political sense, a sovereign nation answers to no one. It has its own laws, its own borders, and its own currency. It does not need permission to exist. To possess a sovereign mind is to declare independence from the tyranny of other people's emotions. It is to sign a declaration that says, "From this day forward, I am the sole ruler of my internal state. No one enters without a visa. No one occupies my territory without my consent." This is not just a change in habit, it is a change in identity. You are no longer a person who is trying not to react. You are a person for whom reaction is simply beneath you. The death of the prince. To become the king, the prince must die. The prince is the part of you that is petulant. The prince demands that the world be fair. The prince wants the privileges of power, but none of the responsibility. The prince blames the servants when dinner is cold. The prince throws a tantrum when the carriage is late. Most people live and die as princes or princesses. They spend their lives waiting for the world to treat them like royalty, screaming when it doesn't. The sovereign knows the truth. The world owes you nothing. The sovereign does not demand respect. They command it through their conduct. The sovereign does not complain about the storm. They adjust the sails. This transition requires a funeral. You must bury the part of yourself that loves the drama. You must say goodbye to the victimhood that has comforted you for so long. It is comfortable to be a victim. If you are a victim, your failures are not your fault. If you are a puppet, you can't be blamed for the dance. But the sovereign takes the blame for everything. If I was triggered, it is because my walls were weak. If I was manipulated, it is because my eyes were closed. If I lost the deal, it is because my strategy was flawed. This radical responsibility is heavy. That is why they say, heavy is the head that wears the crown, but it is the weight that makes you strong. The end of external validation. The defining characteristic of the sovereign mind is that it no longer runs on the fuel of external approval. Throughout this book, we have talked about how reactivity is often a cry for validation. We scream because we want to be heard. We fight because we want to be right. We explain because we want to be understood. The sovereign has no need to be understood by everyone. The lion does not need the gazelle to understand why it hunts. When you reach this level of mastery, you become self-originating. Your joy starts inside and radiates out. Your confidence starts inside and radiates out. Your purpose starts inside and radiates out. You are no longer a mirror reflecting the world. You are a sun. A mirror has no light of its own. It only shines if something shines on it. If you put a mirror in the dark, it disappears. A sun shines regardless of who's watching. It shines on the empty desert just as bright as it shines on the city. When you stop needing people to agree with you, you become impossible to offend. You're wrong, they say. Perhaps, you reply, and you keep working. Because your internal compass is calibrated to true north, the magnetic interference of their opinions does not spin your needle. The reality distortion field. There is a phenomenon often attributed to Steve Jobs called the reality distortion field. It was said that his belief in his own vision was so strong that it bent the reality of those around him. Every sovereign possesses a version of this. When you are completely non-reactive, you become the gravitational center of the room. Because you are not moving, everything starts to orbit around you. If you are in a crisis and everyone is panicking, but you are calm, your calm becomes infectious. It spreads. People look at you and their heart rates drop. They think, if he isn't worried, maybe I shouldn't be worried. You are not just controlling your own mind. You are stabilizing the collective mind. This is the essence of leadership. People do not follow the smartest person. They follow the strongest reality. The reactive person has a weak reality. It is easily shattered by a rude comment. The sovereign has a strong reality. It absorbs the comment and remains intact. By holding your frame, you invite others to step into your world. You elevate them. You show them what is possible. You become the lighthouse in the storm. The sword of truth sovereignty is not just about silence. It is about speaking the truth. When you are reactive, you lie. You exaggerate. You always do this. You minimize. I'm fine. You twist words to win the argument. The sovereign speaks with the sword of truth. Because you are not trying to defend your ego, you can afford to be honest. You can say, I made a mistake. You can say, I don't know the answer. You can say, your behavior is unacceptable to me. You speak without malice, but without hesitation. This kind of honesty cuts through the noise like a razor. It terrifies liars. It disarms manipulators. When you have nothing to hide and nothing to prove, your words carry the weight of Scripture. The conservation of life force. Think about how much energy you have wasted in your life on things that did not matter. The hours spent stewing over an insult, the days spent dreading a confrontation, the years spent holding a grudge. That energy is your life force. It is the raw material you were given to build your destiny. When you master the ancient rule, you stop the leaks, you plug the holes in your hull. Suddenly, you have an abundance of energy. You wake up fresh. You have focus for your art, your business, your family. You look younger. Stress ages you. Peace preserves you. You have the energy to create legacy. This is the ultimate return on investment.
The price you pay is the death of your ego. The reward you get is your life back, the infinite game. It is important to understand that you will never be finished. The sovereign mind is not a diploma you hang on the wall. It is a daily practice. It is a muscle that must be worked. There will be days when the crown slips. There will be days when you are tired, hungry, and stressed, and the puppet master will sneak in and pull a string. You will snap. You will yell. You will retreat into the old patterns. Do not judge yourself. The sovereign does not waste time on guilt. Guilt is just another form of reactivity. If you fall, stand up, adjust the crown, keep walking. The goal is not perfection. The goal is resilience. The goal is to shorten the refractory period. In the beginning, if you got angry, you stayed angry for a day. Then you stayed angry for an hour. Then 10 minutes. Eventually, you will feel the anger rise
Acknowledge it and release it in the span of a single breath. That is mastery. The solitary path. I must warn you, the path of the sovereign is often a lonely one. Most people bond over drama. They bond over shared complaints. Can you believe the weather? Can you believe the boss? Can you believe the news? When you stop playing that game, you may find that you lose friends. You become boring to the chaos addicts. You become arrogant to the insecure. Let them go. You are clearing space for a higher caliber of human being. You will attract other sovereigns. You will attract people who bond over ideas, over creation, over growth.
You will build a new court, one populated not by jesters and sycophants, but by knights and builders. The final mandate. As we conclude this audiobook, I want to leave you with a visual. Imagine you are sitting on a throne at the center of a great hall. The doors are open. Through the doors comes the wind. Through the doors comes the rain. Through the doors come messengers bearing bad news, and jesters bearing insults, and enemies bearing threats. They march up to the throne. They scream. They dance. They demand your reaction. You sit there. Your posture is upright. Your breathing is deep. Your eyes are clear. You do not chase them out. You do not argue with them. You do not hide from them. You simply witness them. And because you do not feed them, they eventually fade away. They leave you with the only thing that remains when the noise is gone: yourself. This is the ancient rule. It is the rule of the Stoics, the rule of the samurai, the rule of the kings and queens who shaped history. It is the rule that says, I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. The strings are cut. The stage is yours. Rule well.